We ready to roll? Is that how we always start our meetings? Stacy asking if we're ready to roll. All right, I'm going to call to order the school board meeting right at 6 o'clock tonight. So I'm assuming the meeting has been publicly notified properly. Okay, then we're going to start by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with hearing of visitors or delegations. Anybody here that would like to address the board?
Hi, Jim Souter. Yep, I'll do that. All right, thank you. Real quickly, just I know 871, which is 6I. The two things. Number one, the revision from what it was to what it needs to be or what is proposed. I would really, when it gets to discussion, if there could be a little bit of a synopsis as to what worked well in the old policy and what's being changed, and maybe some philosophy as to why, I think that would be helpful. And the other, in the same topic, is the idea that any complainant or the committee members have to read the entire selection. I guess that's cover to cover, rather than finding maybe a chapter that's offensive. I just find that a little arbitrary and a little bit of a hurdle, I think, for people. And it's kind of unenforceable anyway. So in preparation for that, I looked at a few other districts, and they had wording that was a little easier than that, than just a demand that everybody read the entire selection. So I'd like that to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board?
Hi, Jackie Nickum. I think you all know me by now. But I do want to touch on an item that I'm hoping it's not going to get swept under the rug, and that is the issue of the pornography in the books that are in the libraries. You hid behind policy, and none of you had to state your real position on the pornography that's in the books, that's in the libraries, and that's also being available in some of the classrooms. So the endorsement of pornography to be assigned and available to students, even to grade school level, is not acceptable. The endorsement, which may be coming, of teenage boys and girls showering together is also not acceptable. What happened at the last school board meeting is not an accurate reflection, at least I don't believe it is, of the greater amount of people in our community. What you saw was the squeaky wheel showing up. Perhaps some reflection on these policies would be appropriate prior to you asking the taxpayers of this community to hand over $30 million. I also have a handout here that I'd like you to look at. I think it might give you some insight into the ideology behind what's being promoted in the schools today. I would suggest that you take a quick scan at number 17, number 24, 25, and 26 for your reading enjoyment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board?
I will. Since most of the, Pam Souter, community member. Since most of the policies you guys are looking at over the past month or so have to do with parental input, I just wanted to share these questions, and maybe there could be public responses in the next meeting or whatever. I know you guys are tired of hearing about this from me, but about the Human Growth and Development Committee, if there's been any more discussion on opening that up to the public. We were told that they had met in the spring. However, I kind of looked to see if there's an agenda. There's no agenda for that. There's like a kitchen advisory committee agenda, but there's no agenda for the human growth and development. And so I found that kind of interesting. But I think that gives the assurance to the community that they feel more comfortable with what's being taught, because there are people saying that there are special groups coming in and talking to their children about certain things that they may not feel most comfortable with. And then the other thing is, sorry, I gotta put my glasses back on. There were comments that there are no links, curriculum links on the website, that there used to be, but there aren't. And parents have been sent letters to say, please read these books or check out these books for your students, because they're going to be getting these books. If they're going to have to choose from books and there needs to be parental input with that, the parents should know what those books are at the beginning of the school year or even at the end of the summer, so that they have time to read them themselves and discuss it with their students. And so just if you can take a look at that maybe, and that would be helpful for parents to feel like they have the time to read those books and help their children make choices regarding books that are, I'm talking about ones that are in the curriculum, whether they be core or whether they be choice books. And it just shows good faith. And then I think there was one other, in one of your statements, it talks about, and I think it's in one of the policies that are coming up, that curriculum will be chosen that is good quality curriculum. And this was brought up before, but I'm going to bring it up again, is that some of those books that those parents were asked and they looked into them, and I don't know if the board knows this, that's why I'm saying it. The reading level for a lot of those books were like 4th to 6th grade reading level, and there's high interest, low reading level, but that is used for students that have lower reading skill. So there was one book I think that was maybe closer to high school reading level, and of course that was Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens. But that is something that if you're going to provide the best quality, I think is the statement in the policy, the best quality, it should have high reading level if you want your kids to have the rigor that they should be having, since there's an attempt to get them into college and careers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Willis Rivera, community member. I want to say thank you for putting in the piece about having people read things before they can object to them. I think it's very important to instill critical thinking in everyone in this community. And as someone who teaches at the university, I know how frustrating it is sometimes when people think that they know the content of the thing, but they haven't read it. And it becomes clearer once they read the entire content of the book or the poem or the piece. So I think that is really important to teach everyone, that we can't work in 30-second sound bites. We've got to get context and to be able to critically think and understand, so that we can therefore communicate with our students and with each other about some of the ideas, whether or not you agree with them in the text. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
My name is Brenda Petta, and I wasn't planning to speak, but because 871 apparently is going to be voted on, I wanted to point out that your policy 361.2, last time I think someone made the comment that the board doesn't want to get involved in making decisions about books. But this particular policy, which I took off of your website today, states the following. If any person wishes to permanently remove materials from a school district library, he/she must seek the formal approval of the board. The board may determine that such materials should be removed. Such determination must not be based upon official suppression of ideas, but rather upon the educational suitability of the materials in question. Only the board and/or the superintendent may authorize said permanent removal of instructional materials pursuant to the decision of the board. Also, I would like to say that if an 11-year-old, and I mentioned this last time, if an 11-year-old is reading step by step by step the molestation of a stepdaughter who's quite young, I don't really think, and the book is full of pornography, and the book is full of taking Jesus Christ and God's name in vain repeatedly. That is an offense to a large segment of the student population. And I don't really think that parents who are Muslim, or parents who are Christian, or parents who are Jewish need to worry about their children coming to school and having high doses of profanity in the books that are available. And I don't think you do have to read the entire book, because I've read 3 books from beginning to end. I would try to read sections of the book to other adults, and they would stop me. I don't want to hear it because it was so offensive. So if it's so offensive to my husband and to other adults that I've tried to share these books with, why are we doing it? Why are we making it available for our children? It makes no sense. I recently, I think yesterday or the day before, because I have 2 grandchildren at Rocky Branch, I went into the Rocky Branch Media Center's site, and I found highlighted on the first page that popped up, without my putting in any keywords, new books. Well, one of the books seemed rather suspicious, so I started researching. And again, this is 4-year-olds through 5th grade. This was rated YA. I wonder how many young adults are at Rocky Branch Middle School. And then I won't go into the content of the book, but for many, many parents, it would be highly objectionable.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to address the board tonight? All right, we're going to move on to informational items. So we'll start with Mr. Benson's superintendent's report.
Yeah, just wanted to give a little update on our project oversight committee that's been working with our architect and construction management firm, looking at a facility assessment and trying to narrow down a comprehensive list of what those facility wants and needs would be. And we're at the crossroads now where it's time for us to distribute a community survey. So we're going to do that in mid-September. There will be a survey sent to all community members. We're working with School Perceptions, an independent survey development firm. That's what they do. That's their bread and butter. And so they're helping us put together the format and the design and so on. Obviously, some of the questions are specific to our needs here, but they're helping us with the design.
Basically, the survey is an opportunity for the board to hear from community members regarding your thoughts and opinions on two things, really. One is the facility needs in our district, and the other is where we're at with our operational budgetary needs moving forward. We're projecting a $3 million deficit just to pay for ongoing normal day-to-day operations in the district. And so in the survey, we try to give a little bit of information. We try to give a little background information, and then we ask questions. So again, the survey is designed around two potential February referendum questions. One is the operational, and the other is related to facilities. And so we want to encourage our community members, and we'll be sending out further reminders and so on, to please take time to help provide the board with some guidance and help provide the board with your thoughts and opinions regarding those two referendum topics. The timeline, as I mentioned, the survey will go out in mid-December. Survey results will be known by the board in early October. And they'll essentially have 2 months then to determine what exactly will be on the February referendum, because there's a law that would require the board to pass a formal resolution stating what will be on the referendum in February, and that resolution has to be passed 70 days prior to the referendum. So basically, by the time the survey goes out mid-September, survey results come back to the board early October, the board will essentially have 2 months to kind of digest that data from the survey results, go back and look at things that were identified internally by the district, and then pass their resolution in early December to announce what will be on the ballot in February. So just wanted to mention all of that, give a quick reminder to be looking for that in the mail. You can fill it out online or with paper and pencil.
Are you done with your report?
That's it.
Okay. That was pretty quick. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to action items. So we're going to start with the approval of minutes, bills, and recommended employment. So we have 3 items that are part of this: the July 24th, 2023 regular Board of Education meeting minutes, which we've all gotten ahead of time and have reviewed. Bills submitted for payment, and then pursuant to board policy, which references Wisconsin statutes, and the sections are listed. All employees who require Wisconsin state certification shall be recommended by the superintendent to the Board of Education for approval. So all recommendations presented at this time are pursuant to approved board policies and accompanying administrative procedures. Do I have a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Do we need any discussion on these? I feel like we've reviewed them ahead of time. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right, motion passes. All right, we're going to move to consideration. We're going to move to considering approving the August 7th Educational Program Committee recommendations. So we're going to hand this over to Alan and
Okay.
Nate.
We had, on August 7th, we had a really good meeting with a lot of information. None of this was actionable items. It was all informational items, and I think it was a very good discussion. Nate, thanks for your leadership in helping us move through this, and Mark Chapin for moving us through this. But we dealt with a number of things. First off, Mark and staff gave us a really nice update on the trend to standardize. That's what they're doing right now in standardized grading in the middle school. Was able to answer a lot of our questions and give us an update on how that's going and how it works. We had an update on our English language arts resource adoption. Nate talked about how we're doing that and how that happens, and tied to the calendar now, how that's going to work a little more smoothly. Nate gave us a really good presentation about high-quality teaching and learning and what that means to the district and what that will mean for us going forward as we continue to talk about it with our faculty and communities. We had a summer school update. Summer school went very well. Had some give and take and discussion about summer school and thoughts about where this might go for next year. So had a really good summer session, summer school update. And I guess that was it. Anything else to add that we talked about at that? Okay, none of it requires action. Good, really good discussion, though. We talked about quite a few things for quite a while, so thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Alan.
Oh, I didn't.
All right, let's take a look at the 2023-24 Student and Athletic and Activities Handbooks. So we can take these individually. We have some administrators here that maybe could share any significant changes as we go through them, or do we have a preference to take them individually or collectively? We've all had time to review those. If nobody votes, I'm taking the long way, because this might be my only time to run this meeting, so.
In my opinion, there were minimal changes that, I mean, to each one of them. In fact, I think a couple had no changes, so I would be in favor of voting all of them up and down. All in one vote.
Is everyone okay with bundling them, or do we have individual questions within the,
I read through them all. I don't have any. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
I would just be curious to know if there were any significant changes
Yep.
other than little typos and stuff that happened between when our packet came out Friday and,
Yeah,
and there's just a couple little minor typos I think that I saw that they were,
yeah.
if there were no significant changes, I think there's.
Any other administrators, since you came out tonight, do you have anything, any substantive changes that you would like to share from it didn't look like a lot of big changes.
Nope. But these become important documents for us, so it's good that we look through it and we've all read through them.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
if not, then I would move that we approve the 23-24 elementary school student handbook, the 23-24 middle school handbook, the 23-24 middle school athletic handbook, the 23-24 high school student handbook, the 23-24 high school activities handbook, and the 23-24 Renaissance Academy student handbook.
I'll second that.
Is that right?
Yes, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on these?
Okay.
This is what we do, right, in our free time. We read handbooks. This is so good. All right. They are actually really interesting. I agree. Okay, so all in favor of Alan's motion to approve all of the handbooks?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Great. All right, and then we're going to move to a conversation about the service agreement with the University of Wisconsin River Falls preschool program to share the cost of a special education paraprofessional for this year. So we're going to throw that to Mark.
I know the agenda says this is a new agreement. This is an agreement that we've had in place for a number of years. So again, this is just a cost-sharing agreement with UWRF to provide a paraprofessional who works with our early childhood program, who works out of that daycare center. So I would recommend that we approve this agreement. It's a nice cost-sharing agreement, makes good efficiency of our resources.
Mark, is there any substantial change from previous years on this? I don't, it looks.
Yep, not on the UWRF one. There is a couple of minor changes to the ones that follow. I don't know if you want me to take those now or.
No, just this one.
Okay, yeah. Nope, no changes.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the service agreement with UWRF and the preschool program? Great, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. So we're going to stay with you, Mark, for this agreement, 66.0301.
So we have two different agreements here. One is kind of an ongoing agreement with our deaf and hard of hearing teacher, who we share with a couple other districts. There's been a minor change here in that St. Croix Central kind of dropped out of our agreement. They actually were able to hire a special education teacher who had dual licensure. So they ended up doing that there on their own. However, we were able to kind of replace part of that with Ellsworth. So Ellsworth took on 10%. And so between Ellsworth and Prescott, it covers 20% of that position. Last year, it covered 30% of the position, so a slight difference there. But we were still able to find a replacement for part of that. And then just looking at overall cost, again, this does save us money if we were to compare this to going directly to CISA to provide these services. So I believe this is a good use of our funds, good efficiency as far as that piece. So that's the DHH agreement. We also have a project search agreement that's also ongoing. In this coming year, I believe there's 3 students coming from St. Croix Central, 1 student coming from Ellsworth. The only difference here is I added a little bit of language at the end, just saying that there was kind of some proration of costs in the event that a student were to drop out of the program. In past years, when a student has dropped out, we've kind of ate that cost. This is just a way for us to recoup some of that cost by increasing and distributing the cost among member districts should that occur. So again, it's a nice way for us to use our resource as well.
Yeah, I think, Mark, this is an example of how, sharing teaching, this isn't the only place where we're sharing teachers with other districts. Plus, we get CISA services. Plus, we do things like we do the co-op on girls hockey and some other kinds of things, cooperating to spread our money a little bit further. I think it's kind of important for us sometimes to stop and point that out, that we do reach out and we do try and share things with other districts, so.
Great, we're going to keep these 2 together then. Do we have a motion to approve the teacher of the hearing impaired agreement and project search agreement? Thank you, Bob.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mike. All right, any further discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, motion passes, thank you. Thanks, Mark. All right, well, we're going to move to school bus purchasing, so we're going to throw this to Lynette.
Yeah, and I'm gonna toss it to Todd in a second.
Okay.
Hot potato, yeah, that one thing. This one, press and hold. We're on. So as you know, we purchase buses every year, sometimes 1, sometimes 2. I don't know if we've done 3 in the past as well. It wasn't long ago that they were less than $100,000 a piece. As you can see, massive inflation happening. So we're looking at $135,000 for a bus, including the cameras and storage all installed. So we got the bids. This is who we normally would get bids from, and those are in your memo. So we're recommending the purchase of the Freightliner bus for a route bus from Nelson's. And I'm sure you have questions, and I think Todd has some things to add as well, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you.
I'm just here in case you have questions, but.
So is Freightliner a brand that we've purchased before?
Yeah, it's a Thomas bus,
Right.
but it's
Oh, okay.
on the chassis.
Okay.
And wasn't it, didn't we order one that would have a long lead time we weren't gonna get until like this August?
Yeah, so we actually
We
just,
just got it?
so when Chad was going out the door, we kind of did a scramble because we wanted to see kind of where we were gonna be with funds. So we did just receive 2 buses, right at the end of the fiscal year. So they are in service. They'll be ready to go for this upcoming school year here in 2 weeks and a day.
And part of that was because of the later ordering time. We took stock buses.
Correct.
And we-
So, and the buses, so what we did is we bought, the manufacturers will build extra buses, so we just bought a stock bus. They were very similar to what we wanted, but the 2 buses that we did receive, I've been going to get underneath storage on them. And these did not have the underneath storage, but, other than that, it's a very nice bus.
So we're doing this much sooner, earlier in the school year because we know of the lead time. And the intention is that we would still get this within the fiscal year, but they are 11 months out. So
Absolutely.
Wow.
won't see this for a while.
I'm curious, Todd.
Yep.
I'm just curious, Todd, in your circles statewide, I know some school districts are moving to electric buses. Are you hearing conversation about that, or what are your thoughts on the timeline on that?
Yeah, so actually I went to a event in Augusta High School through CISA 10. It was for electric buses. It was very eye-opening, I guess, to say the least. There's obviously a few things we have to do as a district first and foremost. Obviously, we want to talk about it. We want to be proactive in it. But ultimately, we have to figure out what we're going to do as a school district. What are we going to do? Are we going to stay at the facility we're at? Obviously, we don't want to spend the money for infrastructure where we currently sit, and then in 2 years, we say we're going to move somewhere. So as a district, we have to decide where we want to go there. A lot of the school districts east of here, go right through Xcel Energy, and we obviously have River Falls Municipal. So I believe we're more of like a cooperative type energy. So we may get our energy from Xcel, but we actually come through River Falls Utilities. So we would have to then at that point sit down with the city and find out, can they handle the infrastructure for our charging stations and things like that. There's 65 electric buses that are coming to the state of Wisconsin this year. 25 of them are actually going to the Minocqua School District. I know Mr. Benson had sent an email out today down in Palmyra Eagle School District. They initially had it rolled out that they were going to start the school year with their whole fleet was going to be electric buses for route buses. No, in Palmyra Eagle, southern Wisconsin, down by Milwaukee. But I believe they're holding off now until mid to late September to actually roll that out. The one little thing about it is the infrastructure right now currently isn't there, right? So let's say, for example, our volleyball team were to go to Madison or Milwaukee or to Green Bay for an event, we're still gonna have to burn that diesel in a diesel bus because where are we gonna charge? And the parameters around it is, what do you do with your student athletes or your kids for 3 hours while you're sitting there at a Quick Trip charging? Or wherever there's for longer trips. Off of the CISA 10 deal and going through, it would probably work on 10 to 12 of our bus routes that we have. What we have to understand too is that we have 14 buses that run pretty much from 6 in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. So either you need 2 buses for that driver to do all that work, or you're gonna have to stay with a diesel bus for that driver. But like our in-town routes that are transfer buses, by all means, they would work. But again, it goes back to, we have to make sure we understand where we're gonna be as a district with our facility and things like that before we were to, invest that money in the infrastructure. A brand new electric bus is $375,000. A replacement battery for an electric school bus is about $110,000 right now.
Yeah.
Now, with these buses right now, they give you an 8-year warranty on the battery, but at 8 years and a day, if it goes, it's $110,000.
I think yeah. Excuse me, the future of transportation is electric, whether it's in 10 years or probably 10 years or 20 years or whatever. We seem to be moving in that direction. This is one of those things where I don't think we want to be the first district to do it. But the stuff that you're talking about right now is, we're learning about this. And one of the things we do in learning is we learn from a lot of other mistakes and what other people are doing. So, by the time we get to the point where we're ready, we're going to have thought about it. It's not going to be a surprise. We're going to know where the charging station infrastructure is, because I think it's larger than what most people think. It's just trying to get an app that shows you where it all is and the logistics. And then for us, we'll have to plan long-term for the logistics of getting rid of the diesel buses and bringing electric buses, because if, as you mentioned here again, we keep our buses for 10 to 11 years and use them for parts, we're going to have to stage a transition and all that sort of thing. So I don't think anybody should get concerned that all of a sudden we're thinking about jumping to $300,000 buses. But at a certain point, those $300,000 buses are going to be competitive, probably on price, and the batteries are going to be different. And then we'll have to decide if and how we'll make it. But we've been talking about this for a number of years, and I think you raise a really good question, Allison. But
Well, I was just wondering, I'm just glad.
Yeah, no, I think we have to keep our eyes open to it. Like Alan said, it's what's coming, right? So I would rather learn as much as I can about it.
Right.
That way, in the future, we're not caught off guard and behind the 8 ball.
Cool. If I could just mention a couple of things, Todd, there's this notion that we do keep buses for at least 10 or 11 years, and then we use them for parts. We had a discussion earlier at the project planning meeting. All the more reason why we need a really good shop attached to the bus garage down there, because if we're taking the parts off them, but we don't have a good shop to put them on, we're not saving any money. So I think in our referendum, we're going to be wanting a realistic, very modest redo to that transportation facility. So it's one more time for us to mention why we're talking about this. Good good things. The other thing is, we have 2 bus services, bus bids here. There really aren't very many people to go to bid on buses, right? I mean, if somebody says,
Correct.
how come you only got 2 bids? There's really not too many other places to go to.
Correct.
These are kind of
There's
it,
one
right?
other, there's one other Wisconsin bus service that has Bluebird buses, but
Okay,
they never got their bid back to us.
good. Thanks for all your work on this. This is great.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Todd, and thanks, Lynette.
Do you need a motion?
Yep, I need a motion to approve the purchase of 1 Freightliner route bus from Nelson's with budgeted funds from the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob and Allison. All right, any further discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, let's move to action to approve the second reading of revised. So we have a few second readings to talk about. Approve the second reading of revised school board policy 361.1, selection of instructional materials. So just a quick refresher, the first reading of this policy was approved at the July 24th school board meeting.
And before that, we talked about it in committee too, right?
Yeah.
We have a pretty thorough conversation about this one.
Good, so anyone like to motion approval of the second reading of the revised school board policy?
I'll move that we approve the second reading of the revised school board policy 361.1, instructional materials, selection of instructional materials.
Thank you, Alan.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Any discussion about this one? No, it's pretty straightforward. It feels like we've talked about it a lot. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, motion passes. All right, we're going to move to action to approve the second reading of revised school board policy 330, curriculum review and development. Again, the first reading of this revised policy was approved at the July 24th regular school board meeting and at committee prior to that. So we would need a motion to approve the second reading. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Alan.
Again, I would ditto my comments before. We've had really good conversation about this so far. And there's been feedback and there's been adjustments on all of these as a result of that, so.
Yep. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, motion passes. Okay. Thank you. All right, next we're going to move to action to approve the second reading of the revised school board policy 871. It's the rule for procedures for handling public complaints about instructional or library media center materials. And we also have 871, the exhibit, request for reconsideration of instructional or library resources. So we did the first reading of this, also at July 24th, meeting both the rule and the exhibit. And Jamie, maybe you can talk a little bit about the revisions to the policy. We're basically about the balance of the committee.
Yeah, so you are correct that we wanted to provide better balance on the review committee process. So if a person files a complaint using the attached exhibit to say they have a concern either with a book or some other instructional material, the policy states that we're going to seat a committee to review the material under question. And so where we made a purposeful effort to provide better weight and balance to the committee, the review committee process, was to have more community parent representation and less school representation in the committee process to try to weight that and provide a better balance, if you will, on representation on the committee. And then, in addition to that, we also revised slightly some revision to once the review committee makes a decision, then the complainant, if they disagree with that decision, they can appeal to the school board. And so the next section of this policy talks about how that appeals works and what that process would look like. And so within that, the clarity in this policy that was void in the previous version of the policy was that it gives greater clarity that the board's process in this appeal is to first decide whether or not you think that the review committee followed the policy. And then if you as a board, this policy now adds clarity to say that if you as a board believe the review committee followed the correct policy as stated, then that ruling stands. However, if you think that somewhere the review committee fumbled the ball, maybe deviated from the process, then you as a board have some choices to make regarding how that process would then move forward. And that basically is to say that you as a board can either request more information and determine a process for a whole new review to be done, or some variation of a review to be done, or you can refer it to the superintendent for a final decision. So I think the two main pieces, again, in summary, are a better balance within the initial review committee, and then more clarity regarding the board's role upon appeal.
Awesome, thank you, Jamie. All right, do we have a motion to approve the second reading of the School Board Policy 871, Rule, Procedures for Handling Public Complaints about Instructional or Library Media Center Materials? And let's take them together if everybody's okay with that. The second reading for the School Board Policy 871, Exhibit, Request for Reconsideration of Instructional or Library Resources. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Thank you.
Again, there was
Any
lots
further
of
discussion?
conversation about this one. This said, thank you for summarizing that, Jamie, but we had lots of conversation about this.
Yep. It's always a lot easier when it gets to the second reading and we've done all of that, all of the work. Great. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, motion passes. Thank you. Thanks for the summary, Jamie. All right, and action to approve the second reading of the revised school board policy, bullying, or 411.2, bullying, cyberbullying. The first reading of this also was at the July 24th meeting. I think the main addition to this was to put a little more teeth in the cyberbullying part of the policy. So we need a motion to approve the second reading of the school board policy 411.2, bullying, cyberbullying.
So moved.
Thank you. Alan?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Any discussion on this one?
You know, I think, as I recall we had a really good conversation about this one too, but this is a policy that will be revised periodically. There's just, technology is changing so fast and new stuff is coming up. I think this is one we're just going to have to get used to and get comfortable with seeing it in front of us again.
It feels hard to stay in front of the cyber anything really from my perspective. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right. Are there any proposed or suggested items for the next school board meeting, for future meeting agendas?
Cindy, we have the second reading of one of our policies coming into the September meeting, right? It's the
Yep.
Gender diversity
Gender
policy.
diversity policy, right. So that one's coming to the September meeting for a second reading.
Yep. Anything else? Oh. All right.
Jamie, you'll probably give us an update on the survey at the September meeting. Well, that'll be too early, won't it? Yeah.
Too early, yep.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's
Great.
just coming out then. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move to scheduling our next board and committee meetings. The dates and times, locations are listed below, but our Ed Programs is not going to have a meeting in September. Finance and Facilities Committee meeting is Monday, September 11th at 6 p.m. Personnel Committee is meeting Monday, September 11th, immediately following the Finance and Facilities Committee. And then we have our annual meeting, our annual full board meeting, Monday, September 18th at 6 p.m., and that one is at the River Falls High School auditorium. We have our regular board meeting, Monday, September 18th at 7 p.m., immediately following the annual meeting. And then all meetings that, other than the annual meeting and the regular board meeting, will be at the district office. We're good? Great. We adjourn?
Nicely done.